Hello and welcome to this Edexcel GCSE Geography walking talking mock on weather and climate, and this is for the evaluate question. These sessions are helping to improve your confidence in reading and interpreting the exam questions to try and improve your results. So, as always, what you need to do is have a look at how to use this video. You can pause it here if you've not done it before, so you know the best way to use it. So hopefully you've seen the other video responses which look at question 5, weather and climate, and the early stages of question 6 with the shorter response and explain questions. But here we're going to take some time to look at this longer one. So the question is, evaluate the different responses to the environmental impacts of tropical cyclones in a named developed country. Now this is the longer question. It is worth 8 marks in total. So you're going to be having around about 10 minutes as long as you've done the state and identify questions relatively quickly. You need to be aware of time though, and don't spend too long on this, because often you can spend far too long on these 8 markers, which means you don't get a chance to complete the question. So what have we got? Well, the command word is evaluate. Now this basically means you've got to say how successful or how valuable are different actions or responses. A response is an action, something that has been done, and it's looking at saying how successful the different actions have been to the impacts of tropical cyclones. But we have to be careful because there are a number of different restrictions here. One of the restrictions is the fact that we're looking purely at the environmental impacts. Okay, so that is very important that we focus on environmental impacts. You need in your answer to mention what some of those impacts are before you can talk about what the different responses to them are. It's talking about tropical cyclones, but in a developed country. So you must make sure it is developed, not developing or emerging. This is very important because even if your answer was fantastic, if you've not done it for a developed country, you will get 0 points. So the first thing you must do, although you don't get points for this, but you will lose points if you don't put it in, is name your developed country. Now we had a look at USA. Be careful, because some people would tend to put Hurricane Sandy or Hurricane Katrina, but that would be wrong because you are naming the developed country. You're not looking necessarily at a named hurricane or tropical cyclone, but it is the developed country. So what we need to remember before we answer this question is just how these are marked. And we need to remember that these answers are level marked. They are not point marked. So you don't get a tick for every time that you've said something useful and then add all of those up. It is about using your knowledge and applying your knowledge and understanding of the relationships between the different events, the people, and the actions that they can take place. And it's also making sure that you choose the right information and actually follow the instructions of the command word. Now, one of the important things is for the evaluate question is you should be using some form of case study evidence in there for a level 3, but also you need to make sure that you are making judgments on it. So how successful are they? And this needs to be supported by evidence. So this is really important stuff to look at. So let's have a look at the question again. So evaluate how successful have different responses. So how successful have these different actions to the environmental problems caused by tropical cyclones in a named developed country been? So before we start, let's think about what does evaluate mean? Well, you can see the information on the screen about the meaning of evaluation. Okay, so it's measuring how successful something is, and you need to talk about the different actions that have been taken to overcome which problems. You should try and say why some actions have been more successful than others, because this is the evaluation, and you must be giving a brief conclusion at the end. So if we look at what kind of information you could include here, well, what we're looking at giving examples of the different actions and by different groups of people and say how successful they were. So we could start looking at what could individuals do. Well, individuals could use sandbags to prevent the land flooding. So the use of sandbags would be the response, and preventing the land flooding would be the impact of the tropical cyclone. Now in green we can see the evaluation. It's only small scale, it would only protect a small bit of land, so it's unlikely to have a big impact. If we looked at larger organisations, again, we can see that they can identify areas at risk and can help to clear the environment after the event. Now here we've talked about the actions, but you'd need to link that to some of the problems or impacts as well. And again, our evaluation, it can help certain areas, but limited success due to the lack of resources. Now, because we want a wide range and balance, we're going to look for a third one, and we're going to look at governments. So these can predict and can mobilize resources to help clear up. Okay, and we can see here we've got our evaluation. What is missing from this though is any kind of evidence. So you might want to talk about the events of Hurricane Katrina or Hurricane Sandy or Superstorm Sandy, depending which ones that you study or looked at throughout your revision. It doesn't matter which ones you chose as long as they occurred in the USA. So you've seen that information there. Now it's your turn to have a go at answering this question. Remember, set yourself a time limit of 10 minutes maximum for this. Have a go. Okay, so you've had a go and you had some help from the slide that I put up showing how you could set it out, but let's look at the mark scheme, and what we can see is a whole range of different ideas that you could have put here. So what were the potential impacts? Flooding, damage to the environment from an industry, from contaminated ground or soil erosion, or damage to trees that have been blown down. This idea that there are different groups of people and what those different groups can do, from individuals, governments, organisations. But also notice that it is really important to look at when I get to it, to look at the evaluation of it. So here we can say they can have a relatively small impact. Okay, they can protect their own land, but not much beyond that. Yeah, we can see the differences here. So it's worth having a read through to seeing how the information is laid out there. And then remember, when you're marking this, you've got to be thinking about the level descriptors. What are the different levels that the examiners are going to be looking for? So again, you're looking for a wide range of ideas, so preferably 3 different ideas. You've looked at the impacts and what different groups could do for those impacts, and then saying how successful they are. And then don't forget that you need to give evidence from your different case studies and give a conclusion at the end of it. So I hope that's been useful. Thanks very much for watching. See you again soon. Bye.